Sometimes, the scariest things aren't the ones we see. They're the ones we can't explain. For Mia, a young artist searching for peace, it all began with a small apartment she thought would inspire her creativity. Instead, it would become the canvas of her nightmares. Mia moved into an old building, worn and forgotten, much like the city around it. Her apartment was cheap, but something about it felt wrong. The air was heavy, the walls seemed to breathe, and the dim light from her desk lamp barely cut through the oppressive darkness. There was one thing she couldn't ignore: a steel door in the corner of the living room, rusted, bolted, and entirely out of place. It had no handle, no lock, only deep scratches carved into its surface. The landlord's words echoed in her mind. "Never touch that door. Don't even go near it." At first, she tried to focus on her art, but by the second night, the whispers began. Faint, indistinct voices seemed to seep through the cracks of the steel door. They spoke no words she could understand, but they called to her, pulling her toward the cold, lifeless metal. By the third night, her curiosity overwhelmed her fear. Mia leaned in close to the door, her breath fogging the surface. That's when she heard it clearly. A single voice, soft and deliberate, whispering her name. "Mia." Terrified, she tried to escape the apartment, but the whispers followed her, growing louder with each passing hour. She turned to the internet, desperate for answers. Searching the building's history, she uncovered an unsettling truth. 10 years ago, a man lived in her apartment. He became obsessed with the steel door, claiming it held something alive. One day he vanished. No one ever saw him again. The next evening, Mia's fear turned to dread as the whispers stopped altogether. The silence was suffocating, thick with the promise of something worse. She approached the steel door again, trembling. It was no longer cold. It was warm, as if something behind it was alive. That's when it happened. The bolts creaked, the door shifted, and slowly, it opened. Beyond the door was darkness, endless, suffocating darkness. But within it, something moved. A shadow, crawling on all fours, its limbs twisted unnaturally. Its eyes gleamed, reflecting the faint light of her apartment. It smiled, a wide, unnatural grin, and whispered again, "Mia." She stumbled backward as her phone rang, breaking the silence. She answered it, her hands shaking. A faint voice on the other end whispered, "Don't look behind you." The lights flickered and went out. Her scream echoed through the empty halls of the building. When the landlord arrived the next morning, the apartment was silent. The steel door was sealed once again, but fresh scratches marked its surface, deep and jagged. Mia was gone, just like the tenant before her. No one knows what's behind that door. No one dares to open it, and no one who hears the whispers ever stays. Sometimes the doors we're warned not to open are the ones that should stay locked forever. The end.